the opening part of the movie, that's what bored you a lot. Was what bored you about the
Yeah,
opening part about the movie?
because I don't give a shit that he's a dad, dude. Like, I don't. I
Really
don't. I
interesting.
really don't care about Aqua Baby. I really don't.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of From Screen to Shelf. I am Gabe here with my partner in crime, Chase, and we are here to discuss the highly anticipated Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom.
It's
This
like it's
is,
anticipated but polarizing because I think
uh,
people saw it out of curiosity because of the controversy, right?
well, some people were anticipating it because it's the end of the Snyderverse and they're super stoked that
True.
it's over. And other people were actually like excited for the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know how I felt going into this movie, man. I wasn't excited. I wasn't like hating on it either, but I just didn't know how to feel going into it. You
that's
were
fair.
pretty hyped about it though, right?
I just love Jason Momoa. I think he's the perfect
Yeah.
casting. Like, I mean, he's not the Aquaman that we see in the comics,
Hmm.
but he just does a different Aquaman that I love. Like, I
Yeah.
really love his Aquaman, you know? Like, he's just Jason Momoa. Bro, like,
Yeah,
if you
he's just being
follow him,
himself.
he's just being himself in a suit, and I love that he can just be himself. There's very little acting, you know, there is
Yeah.
some, right? But it's just I'm watching Jason Momoa, and I just love him as a human being. He's a great person. He does a lot of
Yeah.
humanitarian efforts. I like him as a human, you know?
He's a good dude. He
Yeah.
reminds me of kind of like Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark, where it's like what you said, little acting. He's just
He's
being
just
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
Like the same
exactly.
thing with Jason Momoa. So yeah, I agree with you there. I like Jason Momoa in this role. I think he's funny. He's just being himself, and
Mhm.
you can just see like when he's playing this role that he's just having a fun time with it.
Just
So
great time.
yeah, I agree with you there. So we'll talk about we'll talk about story, we'll talk about acting, we'll talk about visuals, all that stuff. We'll kind of separate into sections, but and just let everyone know we are going to probably get into spoiler territory. So if you have not seen the movie yet, feel free to click off and watch this when you come back. But let's start with our overall takes, and then we'll kind of get into the different parts of the movie. What was your overall take on this? Because you and I were texting each other, and we had completely different experiences
Yeah.
watching this movie. So what was your take on it?
So, you mean like my overall score, like my
Yeah, overall,
end
yeah,
of
your overall just
credits
like
roll
impression
thoughts?
of the movie. Yep.
Yeah. So, there I do have issues with it, but I found it more enjoyable than a lot of the Marvel I've seen, and definitely more enjoyable than I mean, I had a blast with Blue Beetle. I've been on record saying like he's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. I don't think they could have done Blue Beetle better than what they did. Um, that's not the case with this. As much as I found it fun, it's a strong 7 out of 10. But there was just so many things, in my opinion, that for having a director such as James Wan, there's so many things like at the beginning, right? You know, I noticed that Texas Chainsaw reference. You know what I mean? You know I did. I bet you
Yes.
thought of me when you heard that.
Yes, I did. I forgot to
Yeah,
text
you
you
know what?
about it.
Like you know, I was just like, whoa, okay, where are we going? And I
Yeah.
thought we were gonna kind of get into a little bit more of what James Wan's kind of known for, right? And I love when he
Hmm.
steps outside of his genre, but it still felt so studio-y. You know what I mean? It felt so
Yeah.
tried and true. It felt Marvel. It's like what we said in our superhero podcast episode. Aquaman was the most Marvel and Shazam, really, the most Marvel DC movie, right? The
For
most tried
sure.
and true formulaic and everything. And that's where it fell flat for me was towards the second act. I was still invested, but I really thought we were going to get something like a translation of The Trench from the New 52, where it's a lot of horror
Yeah,
in
you and I were
Aquaman's
talking
world.
about that I think like a month ago.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
that would've been right up James Wan's alley, send it off on a different note,
Mhm.
go kinda like how, Into the Multiverse of Madness did with a little bit of Sam Raimi, like, you could feel
Mhm.
Sam Raimi in here. I'm not even gonna lie, outside of some of the horror nods, you couldn't have told me that this was James Wan directing it, and that's kinda why I
Yeah.
felt disappointed a little bit, right? Now again, I'm not trying to put James Wan in a box because he's done some great things outside of horror, but his best things have been horror, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of horror in Aquaman's world. I mean, dude, just think about how deep some of these trenches are. That's horrifying in and of itself, right?
Yeah, man, like
Like,
those I mean, we'll get into it, but like those little like monster zombie things at the end they
yeah.
looked pretty dope. They reminded me almost like 70s like old
Mhm.
like monsters and I wish they had done more with those things. Because you really
Exactly.
only see them at the end, but
Yeah.
I mean, a 7 out of 10 is still pretty solid. It still sounds like you like overall
Yeah.
you enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, like 7 out of 10 to me means I had a good time. But I had some things that I probably, if I was in creative control, which I'm clearly not,
Yeah.
right, that I do differently. or things that I would just want to be done differently. Like 8 out of 10 is like, wow, like, hey, we got something good, right? 9 is like, damn, near masterpiece, and 10 out of 10 is I wouldn't change a thing, right?
Okay.
So like 7 out of
So
10, like there's some things I changed, which was the pacing for it to a degree, right? But how did you feel like from the beginning, like your overall score? Because you never told me about that. You just told me you didn't really care much for it.
well, I have a question. Did you and I watch the same movie? Because I feel like we watched a different movie, man. I was completely bored watching this movie, like
Damn,
completely bored. Like I actually the opposite of you. Like the first 15-20 minutes, I was like more intrigued by because I'm like, yeah, what's
interesting.
Aquaman been up to like the past few years? You know what I mean? And it
Yeah,
breezes through it. I mean, like him getting married and having a kid and all that stuff. But after that, dude, when you start getting into like Manta and this I what is that energy stuff called, dude? I don't even remember what it's called.
the
Orange
goo. I don't know what it was
green
called, but
goo.
it
We'll
just
call it the green goo for the purposes of this the green goo stuff,
yeah, yeah.
and him getting his brother. I was, like, almost falling asleep. I shit you
I
not, I
did
was
almost
almost
fall asleep
falling
during this movie too.
and I
Beginning.
that's not me, dude. To give you reference, like, I went to go see Killers of the Flower Moon. I think it was at 9 PM, and that movie's 3.5 hours long on a work
Yeah,
night, just letting you know,
yeah.
and I never felt like I wanted to fall asleep. This movie, I think I saw it at, like, 5 o'clock, and I was, like, almost on the verge of falling asleep.
And it was under
It
2
was
hours.
under 2 hours. It just did nothing for me. It just felt, like, really
Yeah,
boring. It felt really hollow. The first one, I felt like Jason Momoa had this like, this arc with the character, you know what I mean? Where he's
like
kind of
a sense of
rejecting the
ownership.
throne. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, it was like there's a story there, and, like, he was
yeah,
rejecting the throne. He didn't know what he wanted. He had a identity crisis, so to speak, and in this one, I didn't really get any of that, man. I just feel like he's just, Manta's just screwing with him the whole movie. There's nothing deeper than that. Like, it's really just
yeah,
Manta coming back for revenge, and I really didn't get anything more than that.
yeah.
But I mean, so the it sounds like the opening part of the movie. We'll kind of get into the plot here and then talk about kind of like the visuals and all that. But like the opening part of the movie, that's what bored you a lot. Was what bored you about the
Yeah,
opening part about the movie?
because I don't give a shit that he's a dad, dude. Like, I don't. I
Really
don't. I
interesting.
really don't care about Aqua Baby. I really don't. Because, like, again, I'm tuning in for Jason Momoa, right?
Yeah.
And because
So
that, I'm
anything
sure we'll
taking you
talk about.
from that
Yeah, it just bored
is
me personally, and that doesn't mean it's
okay.
bad because, like, you liked it. But
Yeah.
then again, like, the part where I buy out is Amber Heard's scenes. You could tell were definitely messed
Oh,
with.
dude, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. Let's take like a
Yeah,
quick minute to talk about that
yeah.
because it felt like they literally, and I disagree
Cut
with
her
it
out.
personally. They literally cut
Yeah,
her out a lot. Like there
yeah.
was like you really can tell that she probably had another 20 minutes of screen time, maybe
Easily.
that
A
she
lot
was,
more.
yeah, a lot more that she was supposed to be in with this movie, and you can
Mhm.
just tell like, yeah, almost like forcibly cut out. It just felt
Yeah.
kind of like weird. There's some scenes where she's there and she's not even kind of like talking, and I'm like, shouldn't you have some dialogue here? And she's just there.
Shouldn't she do more than
Um,
exist? Yeah.
yeah, she's, like, on the throne, like, I think they're sitting side by side, and she's just, like, sitting there and
She has
not
1 line
doing
of
anything.
dialogue, I think, in that I think she has 11 lines throughout the entire movie. It was what I read.
Yeah, and I understand the controversy that's going on with her in Depp, but I think,
Mhm.
for the purposes of the story, if you already filmed it and you wrote the script that way, it's like, just
Put
keep
it
her
out.
in there. Yeah, I mean, no one, I mean, it's already been a year since that trial, no one cares anymore. I
No,
mean,
and plus if you kept Ezra Miller.
yeah, dude, if you kept Ezra Miller for a whole freaking movie, get out of here. Like, keep my
Yeah.
girl Amber Heard in this movie. At that point, like, that's ridiculous. That's
Yeah.
stupid. That's such a good point, dude. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I liked the opening just because like that's the stuff I care about. Is like I'm wondering like where
More human
him
elements.
as a character, yeah, like where are you at like in terms of your story arc and what's been going on with you. So
Yeah.
that's where I was kind of intrigued. But like as soon as Manta comes into the picture, I'm like, dude, you're still trying to like. I think this takes place
It's
five
like an
years
annoying
later,
fly.
right?
I
Yeah,
believe 5
yeah,
years.
5 years later, this dude is still like salty as all hell, like trying to
Yeah.
like find
Yeah.
these artifacts, and like I'm like, dude, I get it, I understand, like he wants vengeance, but I'm like
Yeah.
leave it alone, man. That's my whole vibe with him. I never really like he never really resonated with me as a villain
He just has
at
a
all.
vendetta with no personality.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's there, the substance is there. I get it. He killed your dad, but
Yeah.
or he left him to die, so to speak. But
Yep.
it's yeah, there's nothing deeper going on there. And I think
Yep.
that's at least to me, that's the problem with this movie. And you're the middle part, it's if we kind of transition in the middle of the movie, like you're just focused on this like energy green goo stuff for like 30 minutes and him freeing
Yeah.
his brother for like another 20 minutes, which wasn't, at least to me, it wasn't that exciting.
No,
I,
I agree, and I thought that felt like shoehorned in, and like, why so, okay, that is one of my biggest problems. Why did he need him? It never fully explains that.
I
Like,
think
okay,
didn't
so
he
it
know
does.
about like the
The
green
Fisher
goo
King.
stuff or something?
No, because I mean, even he didn't know why Manta was so powerful. Because remember, the biggest thing that, as far as I remember, whenever it came to it, the biggest reason why he needed him was because of the Fish King that he goes and stands before. Remember, he's like, "You're the only one that can talk to him because
Yeah.
you had peaceful relations with him." He's like, "I will jail him on sight," is what he said.
Yeah.
Like, so then he's like an intermediary. But then after that, why is he around?
I
Now I know
think
also,
oh, well, my
dude.
bad, dude. I just looked it up. I think he did it for because I checked on Wikipedia right when I think it's because apparently he knows where Manta's at because I think he hired Manta in the first movie, didn't he?
Then why go to the Fisher King? Like,
I don't
that
know,
whole
man.
king.
That's the problem, man. Like, look, this
Yeah.
movie doesn't make any sense. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I really
Okay,
don't.
so the biggest thing that took points out of for me, like to go a little back before the Fisher King, was when they're like, "We only give him enough water and food to just survive." And then
Yeah,
they
just
come back and then he's running to the water. Okay, so they explain that later, but he's Naruto running to the water, right?
yeah.
That threw me out, right? But then as soon as he touches the water, he's buff.
Oh yeah, he's like Popeye that
He's
just eats some
buff.
spinach.
Just as soon as he touches the water, just buff because like
Yeah.
they're big because of the pressure in living under the sea.
Yeah.
That's how like Aquaman's people, the
Mhm.
Atlanteans, live. They're big and as strong as Superman to it, or Aquaman himself is almost as strong as Superman to a degree because of the pressure and what like
Yeah.
he has to do that. So I laughed. But yeah, and I get that. But even then he's like, I don't know, try this place, do this. And I think that was just to get a little bit of a fight scene in there because then you go to like this like journey to the center of the earth type of movie, right?
You mean
And
when they're in the island or
yeah, once they leave the Fisher King to like keep going, and then they go into
yeah.
the island, and then there's just that back and forth dynamic, and there was some charm in there, like when Aquaman's fucking with him, like, hey, hey, this cockroach, it's delicacy, you know,
Yeah, that was
like
a funny
that was
scene. I mean,
yeah, that was
the
funny,
banter's cool. I don't mind the
yeah,
banter. I'm like, what are we doing? Like,
hmm
like we just helped him escape. That took like a good 20 minutes. We're walking this island. They're bantering back and forth. This is like 10 minutes. They're underground in this like green goo mining facility thing. And I'm just like asking myself, like, what's going on here? I really didn't. I I wasn't invested. I guess that's the,
yeah,
like a good way of saying it. I just the whole time all these scenes are happening, I didn't feel like they had any purpose. I didn't feel like there was any it really didn't resonate with the story in any way. They're just doing stuff to get you to the climax with Manta and Aquaman, and none of it's like compelling, at least to me. And I almost
yeah,
that's where I was started falling asleep was when they got to the island and they went to the green mining goo facility or something, and I think it was
and
Manta
that
and
started the
Aquaman
fight,
fighting. Yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
then
that was a
that's kind of when
boring
I
fight
started
scene, I will say,
I woke up a little bit during the fight scene, but and then this pissed me off. So when they're leaving on that ship, that this weird
yeah,
Atlantean ship, like he's charging at it again, even though the first time he charged at it, they used that freaking what was that like beam, that sonic beam thing that
yeah,
like it took him
the
out.
ray,
The
yeah,
ray. So like, but he goes at it again the exact same way. I'm like, dude, this just happened to you like earlier on, and you're like you're
you're
doing it
adamant
again. Yeah,
as
like
if you're
I
gonna get
didn't
different
get that.
results,
It
yeah,
didn't make any sense to me, dude. It didn't make any sense to me. Where it picked up for like, so if we go to like the third part of the movie,
yeah,
I will say that's probably at least to me, the best part of the movie is just kind of where Manta
to
kidnaps.
Necron,
Yeah, like he
yeah.
kidnaps Arthur's kid. They go to Necron, and he's about to sacrifice
Wait,
the
we
baby. I'm
gotta
like, this is
talk
getting
about
dark.
before you get there, we gotta talk about the
Yeah.
thing I had the biggest problem with. Aquaman's dad. So then, after that fight, because he can't get
Oh
Atlantean
yeah.
blood from Orm or
Mhm.
Arthur, so then
Mhm.
he goes back to the island to Jango Fett, and then once Jango Fett is like babysitting, right? So
Yeah.
then you have Jango Fett doing his thing, and I found that scene kind of cool. Very basic horror, kind
Yeah.
of elements with just Manta there. But then he's like, I'll leave you to die so he can see it. And it's like, oh, kind of maybe some payoff, maybe he actually dies. Bro, they give you that sense of sympathy for a solid 2 seconds in a transition,
Yeah,
you
not
know?
even.
And then literally the next line is, we've stabilized him. He'll be fine. There was no payoff, dude. Nothing
Nothing. There
worth
was no
in there.
emotional stakes, you know what I mean? And if he
Nothing.
did die, like, let's say if he
Yeah.
did die, that would've maybe made me more invested in the movie. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, his dad died, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, this is kind of, like, more interesting now, but, yeah, they throw the freaking whatever thing on his face, and he's like, "Yeah, he's stable, he's good," even though he was stabbed in the freaking
You're fine,
stomach,
bro.
like yeah, like, you're fine.
Yeah.
I didn't get that, dude, and but in some of this too, like, I mean, I know we're about to talk about the final third of the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe that Amber Heard stuff maybe played a role into this too, because it's like a lot of these scenes just feel cut like so quickly. Like you don't get
Yeah.
to sit there and like, like I feel like after his dad getting stabbed, that there was gonna be like, some pretty like emotional scenes with him trying to cope with it and processing and wondering what he should do and sitting with the character, and you don't get any of that. Like it's just like
Yeah.
quick cut to the next thing. And I don't know if that Amber Heard stuff had anything to do with it, but it just feels like really weirdly paced and weirdly edited, at least to
It
me.
does. No, I agree. And I mean, I gotta call it out real quick because it sounds like I gave it a 3 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed the movie for what it is. Because
You're
like,
like, I know we're talking
re-
shit, but I like this movie.
yeah, I like it. It was fun, and I did want to add this though, just because of the experience. It's kind of like why I had a good time with Morbius. Was it a good movie? No, but the
Hmm.
Dolby Cinema experience when I went and saw it was top tier. It was my first time
Hmm.
going to a Dolby Cinema. And this movie, Godzilla, was great, but on a sound level and a visual level, this is the prettiest movie I have ever seen in Dolby. The colors
Oh, so you
popped,
saw it in
man.
Dolby?
Yeah, like,
Okay.
dude, like that jungle scene, the underwater, everything. Wow. 11 out of 10, even for the
I'm
visuals.
gonna ask you something. Let's get through the last part of the plot, and then I'm gonna ask you something about the visuals because I
Yeah.
had something with the visuals I wanted to ask you too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
last part of the plot.
For
I mean, I
Necron, when they
think
go to the
do
kingdom.
do you and I agree that that's probably the best part of the movie?
Um, to a degree until the final confrontation whenever they get to Necron, that felt so wasted. It felt like there should have been an extra 10 minutes worth of fighting. You
Oh,
know what
like
I
the
mean?
actual like getting there.
The spear throw.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, the
I felt
spear
like
throw thing.
that was dumb for being like, "Oh my god, we've awakened a deity," essentially,
That
He just
was a
spears him.
threat for 10 seconds.
Yeah. Then he just throws it, and then he's like, "Man, he caught it. Let me do the same." You know what? To your point, maybe that's the whole trope of this movie. You keep doing it, you maybe eventually succeed.
If I charge at this ship that screwed me up last time, maybe the second time it'll work. And
Yeah, because
yeah,
then he just throws the
this
trident verbatim, and then
yeah.
yeah, that was the weakest part of the movie to me, even outside of all this other goofy stuff, because there was such a buildup. It's called the Lost Kingdom, and I get that
Mhm.
plays into everything, but then when you get to the Lost King, there's nothing worth anything because
No,
I
there's
felt like the
nothing.
Orm thing, and then is like he has more hatred for you, and that confused me. That confused me. Why does he hate you more than the dude that you killed his dad?
Yeah, that didn't make any sense to me. And I'm still kind of like after the whole thing with his dad getting stabbed and the mom, embracing both of them, saying, you guys need to watch out for each other and have each other's backs. And I'm like, and you're
Mhm.
still like salty and angry at him, dude. Like
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Like what's going on? I do like I did like the whole sequence, like the monsters kind of like waking up and charging at everybody, and like the fighting.
That was
I will
fun.
say
The
this because I've
gate.
been shitting a lot on this movie. Yeah, the gate scene is really cool, and the fight scenes are cool. Like anytime you see Aquaman and Manta fighting, it looks
Yeah.
cool. Like it looks really,
It's well
really,
choreographed.
yeah, well choreographed. It's well done. The stuff they do with the tridents and the choreography, it's just really good. But um it just there's no substance there. So, like, by the end of the movie, I mean, so the deity wakes up and you get it for, like, 10 seconds and, nothing really happens. By the
Yeah.
end of this movie, I don't feel like he's reached an arc. I did like the setup. I mean, we're not gonna get it because this is the last installment of the Snyderverse, so to speak, but I did kinda like the setup where they were going, where it's like they're revealing Atlantis to the world. I mean, they're pretty much pulling like a Wakanda thing where it's like, hey, we're
Yeah,
revealing
that was
ourselves to the
cool.
world. Yeah, I did like that, but
It
you
closed stronger
know,
than it began for me.
yeah, for sure. But that it's not going to lead to anything because
And that's kind of where I feel like you can't be invested. It's the end, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like the end of anything because
Mhm.
it sets so much up. That's the
Yeah.
wild part.
It's
So,
it's a
yeah, I
weird,
agree.
bittersweet ending, and I did wanna let's talk about, like, the visuals, and you were getting to, like, the dude,
They look great.
I really?
And
I
Dolby.
don't know. In
Remember
Dolby, but
Dolby.
Dolby, I mean, I love
Yeah.
Dolby. I have one over here too, but I so I saw it in XD. It's like the Cinemark Premium experience or whatever, so it wasn't Dolby, but, like,
Yeah.
I I I don't I got maybe I gotta watch it again, but it's like I felt like the CGI was worse in this movie than the first one.
Oh, yeah, the CGI wasn't great. It was the colors. I love popping colors. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
it
for sure.
was
You're in your head, you're like
blasting my
4K
brain.
HDR.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, the colors just pop.
Yeah,
Yeah, some of the CGI looked whack, like the octopus.
the octopus, but it was more like their faces and their hair when they're underwater talking.
Yeah,
Like, Nicole
I did. Dude,
Kidman
that was
looked like some
distracting.
weird like,
Like
she didn't
a
even look like Nicole Kidman.
looked like
Like,
a gorgon.
she looked like yeah, dude, I don't know what it was, but I was, like, looking I'm like, "This looks horrible." Because the first one, I feel like it's been a while since I've seen it. I was like, "Man, this CGI is, like, really" like, the way they do the underwater scenes, I thought that they were really
Mm.
well done in the first one, and in this one I don't know. I felt like they was, like, taken 10 notches down. I just didn't buy any of the CG.
You bring up a good point because I actually was trying to articulate how they possibly captured it in my
Mhm.
head as I was watching it, and I was like, they probably recorded this with nothing underwater. You know what I mean? Of course, they're not
Yeah.
sitting there,
They're not
with
James Cameron.
yeah, they're not waterproof equipment. But
Yeah.
like the thing is like the way it did come off because that is actually I totally forgot about that because like the underwater scenes are surprisingly few and far between in that manner that we're talking about, but they're there. So it was almost as if they had him dunk their head underwater afterwards
Mhm.
and then just kind of mouth everything and stare as intensely as they could and then CGI'd their head on the dry space. You know what I mean? Because the way the hair was moving and everything, it felt cut out like photoshopped.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested in watching the special features, if I buy this, and we'll talk about that at the end, but, like, I think that they were just, yeah, recording. They weren't, even underwater. They just added because I
Yeah.
think in the first one, that's how they did it. They weren't even underwater. They just kind of applied the water and, like, some
Effects. Yeah.
effects afterwards, but
Yeah.
I agree with 100% with what you're saying. It looked like Photoshop. Like, it's like you had their
Yeah.
heads and then, like, the hair, like, is completely separate from them. Like, there's no blending of the 2. It's like it just looked really, really bad. Some of it looked cool, like some of
Yeah.
the Atlantis scenes, like when Manta attacks Atlantis and they're fighting on
It
that,
looked
like, kind
great.
of highway thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that
was
high
really
speedway.
cool. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
that looked great, but, I mean, the budget on this, let me see, it's
It had to
two
be
hundred
250.
$215 million,
L
dude.
after. Yeah.
There's
That's
no way.
crazy.
There's no way. Like, I mean, there's so many movies, like, with lower budgets and better CGI, like, it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
I
And
I
they
think
they got delayed from March to increase the CGI. Remember?
I'd
Or
be
to
interested in
work on
getting
it.
Will's take on that because he has some experience with like the practical stuff and effects and stuff like that. But it's interest like because I think I was texting you guys that I saw The Creator over the weekend, right? And
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
movie I think has a budget of like 60-80 million, and the CGI is like mind-blowingly good.
Yeah.
And I'm
It's
like,
like
this
Ex
has
Machina levels, right?
yeah, it's like super like it's integrated so well, and it's half the budget of this movie. I
Yeah.
just don't get it. I really don't, man. So I mean, the visuals in this movie, I think they were kind of like hit or miss. Um, I mean, what did you have any concerns with the acting? I know we talked about Jason Momoa. I think he's
I thought they killed
obviously
it. Patrick Wilson
he
killed it too.
yeah, Patrick Wilson's always good in what he's doing. Even I know
Yeah.
people are gonna hate us probably for saying I think Amber Heard is good as Mara or what's her name?
Yeah, she
Mara?
plays like the stoicism aspect of it, like, very
Yeah.
neutral. Because that's even in the comics, she doesn't have a lot of personality. She's just there. I mean, not to say
Yeah.
as a character, she's just there, but she's not like, very emotional, this and that,
Mhm.
shows a lot of rage and stuff. And the times that she does is it's pretty orchestrated pretty well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, she's pretty decent, even though with her like 11 lines and less than 15 minutes of screen time.
And that could be I mean, I know this was plagued with reshoots and cuts and just like what you said, maybe like, trying to get the CGI better. Like it's you can tell this was like a choppy production.
Yep,
Like
I
it
agree.
wasn't really fluid. And
I want to
overall,
shout
dude,
out his suits.
Oh yeah, the suits
The
look
new
pretty
suit looks
cool.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say that. Like the costume design is pretty, and even Manta, like what you said in that one scene where he's just like with his red eyes, like in the dad's
Yeah.
house. Like that looked,
Yeah.
it reminded me of like kind of like the Darth Vader scene in Rogue One, where like
Yeah,
the
when he
red
just shows
lights
up.
turn on. Yeah, I was like, man, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, but those are just like, at least to me, it's like little glimmers of hope that I get throughout the movie that just never really perpetuate into anything meaningful. Like
Yeah.
I yeah, dude, I just
I think I
walked
just had
out.
fun with it.
You had my wife had fun with it when we both walked out. She was like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, and she's like, "I had fun with it." And I'm like, "Really?"
So what's your
uh,
rating? Because I don't think you gave a rating earlier.
um, out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 5, like
Oh,
maybe
so
a
better
4
than Rebel
4.5 or
Moon.
5. Barely. I think I gave Rebel Moon like a 4.5.
Yeah, you
Yeah, so like it's
Yeah.
barely better than Rebel Moon in my opinion. I mean, it's not like honestly, if Jason Momoa was not cast as Aquaman, this movie would probably be like a 3 or a 2 to me.
Oh, I agree.
Like he
And
brings
that's
so
not to
much
take away
energy to the
Patrick Wilson
character.
had to be Aquaman at that
Oh
point.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
At the swap.
Yeah. I mean, like the
Yeah.
cast does such a good job. I think that they do really well with their roles. But like, yeah, if
Yeah,
Jason Momoa wasn't in this, it'd be like honestly maybe like a 3 out of 10 for me. He brings so
I
much to the
agree.
character, and he's so energetic. And like you said, that you can see his personality. He's doing freaking donuts on a motorcycle on the beach, like for
He's just
for
being himself, bro.
yeah, he's just being himself. He's just like, they probably were on the beach. It's like, hey, you want to do some donuts
He's
on your
like, "Hey, James,
motorcycle?
film."
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, start
Like
rolling, bro.
and he's just
Yeah.
like, I mean, like, what and I don't did you ever watch Fast X? Because he was in that
Mm.
as a
As the
villain. Like
villain, right?
yeah, and I mean, those movies are they're into such
Tiresome.
garbage. But he
Yeah.
in that movie, man, he just did he had you can tell he had a good time with that role. He plays like
Yeah.
this like gangster joker, like diabolical kind of character that's just doing whatever he wants when he wants to. And he's just having a blast with it. And
Yeah.
he's enjoying himself. And you can tell like when he takes on these roles, he's having a good time. So I think he brings a lot of energy into this movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my score, dude. I mean, maybe 4.5 or 5 out of 10. I just wasn't. It's a problem if I'm falling asleep, dude, especially on a superhero movie because I love superhero movies.
Yeah.
It's a problem if I'm falling asleep in the middle of it.
That's
And
fair.
what's your score?
It's a I don't know, maybe talking about it, maybe a 6.5 if I went a little lower, but I still had
No,
a
I'm
good
bringing you
time with
down,
it.
dude. Let's keep talking
Yeah,
about it.
like,
I'll bring
you bring me down to a 3. It's just maybe
Wait.
a 6.5 or a 7, but, like, I walked down, I was like, it was decent. It wasn't as bad as what I was reading, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
a lot of people were saying, like, it was bad, it was horrible, it was this and that, but compared to, like, I did end up watching the Marvels, pretty much anything that Marvel's put out this year except Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I did not like in the slightest at all,
I
you
think
know?
I would take I would okay, the Marvels is worse than this for sure, but I would probably and then and Guardians is a whole nother level because I really enjoyed that one. But like
Yeah, for
I
sure.
Quantum Mania I was really iffy about. I'd rather watch Quantum Mania than Aquaman.
I could see that. I just think that movie was too damn long. Quantumania. That
Yeah,
movie
no,
just
for
it was
sure.
20 minutes too long. This one, at least it's just under 2 hours. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
You know? You
and it's
know?
hard. I mean, we didn't mention. I
Yeah.
mean, we talked about James Wan a little bit, but I mean, he's like what you said. He shines when he does horror, man. He's just a really
Yeah.
good horror director. I mean, and I don't want to take anything away from him as a director as a whole because I think he's worked in difficult productions. He did Fast 7 or whatever when Paul Walker died, and he had to try to finagle that movie together, and he did a solid job doing it. So
Yeah. He's great.
I think that you had mentioned it, and you hit the nail on the head earlier. Is I think it's very just feel the studio interference with this one. I don't think he
Yeah.
was given full reign to do kind of what he really wanted to do. So I don't blame James Wan really. I
Yep.
kind of blame Warner Brothers more, if anything else. I just feel like this huge sense of like studio interference with it.
I agree.
So the big burning question is, are you buying this on 4K?
I have every DC movie, and there's some not so okay ones out there. So yes, absolutely.
You're joking, right?
Nope. I will
You're
definitely be
joking.
watching.
Please
I'll be
tell me you're
getting
joking. Please tell me you're
dude.
joking.
Walmart will have to put that in a 9.99 bin, and
Oh
I'll probably buy it
God.
twice. One for me, one
No.
for you.
No, dude. I'm just gonna return to sender on that.
I'll scratch
I'm
it
not.
out.
Oh,
No
dude,
return
no
address.
way. Oh God. No, man. I don't know if I can even buy this one to be honest with you. I didn't buy the Flash.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I didn't get to watch Flash, and I don't have HBO Max, so that's why I bought it when it dipped to 15. So I had to
oh,
buy it.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
haven't bought the Flash. I mean, like I had more fun with the Flash than this movie, at least
the
personally.
performances were great in Flash. Personally, like Ezra Miller, like love him or hate him, like I mean, you heinous shit he did,
Yeah.
but as an actor, golly, he killed that movie. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he's great as the Flash. I mean,
Yeah.
outside of his you're just looking at him as the, portraying that character because obviously his
Yep.
personal life is complete shit, but he plays that role well, and it's fun, and it's I had a more of a fun time with that movie than this movie, which surprises me because I thought Aquaman was gonna be, leagues above the Flash.
Yep.
But
Agree.
it for me, it just didn't turn out that way. I know Will hasn't seen it yet, so it's gonna be interesting to see if
He
he,
likes it.
breaks the tie somehow, maybe if he likes it or if he hates it.
It's gonna be his movie of the year somehow, somewhere.
He's gonna come out of he's like, "Guys, I don't wanna talk about this shit."
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just yeah, we're good. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's going to conclude all of our thoughts. Thank you guys,
Mhm.
everybody, so much for tuning in. Please leave some feedback. Let us know. I know there's a lot of different
Yeah.
things going on out
Polarizing
there.
opinions.
So let's start some things. Do you agree?
Ye
Okay, here, let's pose this question to the crowd. Do you agree with me or do you agree with Gabe? Let us know in the comments below.
I'm
Let
interested
us
in
know.
seeing.
Yeah, let us know. Even if you're going to check it out, let us know. We love talking to you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. The support has been amazing as always, as we like to say. Stay tuned for more as always. Thank you from our heart to yours.
See you guys.